Yes, we can.
Cool. Shall we start?
Yep, let's go.
All right. So welcome back to the CTO Public Hour. And oftentimes we provide technical deep dives into what's happening behind the scenes. And this time around, we're going to touch one most important, interaction our members have with Collab.Land, which is this magic "Let's Go" button, because that's just the starting point of your engagement with Collab.Land and kind of connect your wallet so that your digital asset can be used as a ticket to get into privileged channels supported by the tokenized communities. From the user's point of view, it's quite a straightforward. Like we have this button in one of the channels, and usually we call that Collab.Land join channel, and the community admin may rename that to be more consistent with their community setup. That didn't matter. So in today's talk, we'll really, try to tell a story whenever you click on that, and how many things are involved, and what's the expectation there, and what's the complexity behind the system that we get all this functionality working nicely together. So really, the first thing from the member perspective, when you join a Collab.Land token gated community, is you try to find this, let's go button. Right? So let me switch to my Disco server, and I'm going to use my QA test server to find that. And here's my test server, and usually you try to find a channel name as a Collab.Land join, but be aware that the community may have changed the name of the channel. So that's up to the community itself. So this is the dialog you will see. And we have two buttons here. One is say, hey, let's go. And the other one is just a link to our documentation site. So imagine you are a new member, right? And you just joined this community, and this community requires you to connect your wallet to verify your assets so that they decide what channels will be open to you, right? Then as a member, you will click on this button. So when you click, what information are being sent to Collab.Land? Because on Discord, first of all, you know which community you are in, right? And usually we kind of say, okay, let's go to the server and you copy the server ID, and that server ID will be an entity for your Discord server, right? So that's number one. Number two is, as a member, you also have the option to look up who you are. Right? So you can do this, and you can copy the user ID. Right? So those two things will be sent as you click on the button. And of course, like there could be information about this channel, right? So let's just do it. And of course, when you click on one button, then the other one, we can tell which button you click. Let's go. And the system responds to give you different options, because the idea here is we want to reuse your connected wallet as much as possible, so you don't have to sign a message every single time. And all this wallet will be applied into the different communities. No matter which community you connect that wallet for the first time, the wallet you connect with a different community will be equally applicable to other communities when it comes to token gating. And the user will be given two passes. One is, hey, let's use the connected wallet. That means all the wallet that's here can be used directly in this new community, or you can register a new wallet. Okay. So let's first use this pass. Say, I'm going to, add a connected wallet. Okay. So, the request is being taken by Collab.Land, and the Collab.Land will schedule that background check for you so that you will qualify for the different roles, and you get a notification whenever that check is done. So you see this message coming back and forth, and one interesting thing I want to make a note here is you see this message as so-called like a private message. That means even though this whole conversation happens in a public channel, or it's back and forth, is only visible to whoever clicks on the button. So you have the ability to just dismiss the message, or if you relog in, this message will be gone. Right? So this is an interesting way to have a private conversation over a public channel to keep your privacy. And this is much better than use DM, which it's kind of becoming a very alerting scamming factor for a lot of communities. So have whole conversation privately happening in a public channel, that's really meaningful. So I'm going to try a couple other things. For example, I can check what roles I have so far, right? So I can kind of remove the roles I have. Okay, let's temporarily disable this Collab.Land NFT holder role, right? So I will lose this role for the moment, but I want to just add that back by reconnect. So I'm going to use this connected wallet again, and now the system will check for my assignment. And now you see a little bit difference here, like because the statement here has this the bold font. It's a signal that you regain this role. So for the first try, we basically see this role assignment in a regular font, which says, okay, you maintain that role, right? And if I kind of disconnect my wallet, or like if I sell my asset, you might see a cross of role removal, meaning you used to have that role, but because you disconnect your wallet or you actually transfer the asset to somebody else, then you lose that role. So you will see a strike through in that case. Okay. So pause a little bit here and then going back to the technical side, because this is a technical deep dive, right? So I want to show how this back and forth is happening. So let's go back to our Discord bot, right? So our Discord bot, the couple of interesting configurations that help us to connect the dots. So number one is, no matter if you use the slash command or use click on a button, or you select some items from a choice list, Discord will send a message to this particular URL. And of course, this URL is our webhook endpoint for Discord that listens on all incoming Discord interactions and respond to that request over time, right? So this is the first thing, connect the first dot like from Discord, call the Discord, notify the Collab.Land bot backend. So that's number one. Number two is you can see there's an interesting so-called like a public key, because imagine we have this endpoint, and if Discord can send message to our endpoint, what if some hackers send a random message to our endpoint and try to pretend they're coming from Discord? So that would be eliminated by this idea. When Discord send a message to this endpoint, they will create a digital signature for that message, and that digital signature is created using a private key that Discord assigned to each of the bot application upon the creation of the bot application. And that private key is not even visible to us. So what we really care is we need to have this information called public key. So with the public key, any request coming to this API endpoint, we can meaningfully verify that request is coming from Discord itself, nobody else, right? So that kind of provides a secure trust between Discord and the Collab.Land. So that's some technical details for that particular interaction. And there are also some interesting nuances, like say, hey, when you send anything from Discord, Discord create this so-called interaction, and behind the interaction, there's a temporary token called interaction token. And that interaction token allows this back and forth conversation, but the interaction token can only be valid for 15 minutes. That means if the system becomes really busy, and whenever the role check is done, and if that slip out of this 15 minutes window, then you might don't have the opportunity to see this confirmation. But in a lot of cases, if the system is busy and the request being queued up, your role assignment was still happening. It just you don't see this notification if the system is super busy on the stress and it went off this 15-minute window. Just want to talk about that as well. And second interesting one is like when you do anything from the Discord side, Discord expect the backend to respond within 3 seconds. So that's why like sometimes when you click on the button, you see the dot, Collab.Land bot is syncing. So that sort of means, okay, Collab.Land see that request, but it takes time for Collab.Land to do the real job. And in that case, Collab.Land will send a notification to the Discord side to tell them, hey, I'm working on it, please be patient. Then later on, whenever the real response becomes available, then there's another message that will coming back to say, okay, now we have the real response coming back. Okay. So that's it comes to the Discord bot interaction directly from inside the Discord UI elements. One more pass I want to cover here is like sometimes you really want to add a new wallet, right? So let's say we want to add a new wallet, then I can click this button, and this generate a link, which again will be valid for a couple of minutes, and this give you some security tips to make sure when you have to sign message, you make sure you sign the same message as you from Discord. I'm going to connect this wallet. So this will launch a web UI. So this web UI gives me the opportunity to really look at, okay, the different wallet providers I can use to sign a message so I can prove myself on that wallet. Or you can have the opportunity to see the connected wallet you have. And if you decide to disconnect some of the wallet, you can do that as well. Let's say I'm going to disconnect this wallet and connect this wallet. So this wallet will be disconnected from my side. Then if we go back to Discord side, you see like, because now I disconnect the wallet, right? So my Collab.Land NFT role will be removed because I disconnect the wallet. So now let's try to connect that wallet back from here. And I say I'm going to click the MetaMask, and of course I'm typing the password. And now say, okay, please verify the wallet, and you click on sign message. So this is a security check you have to do by yourself to make sure the message you are seeing here, it's the same message when you launch the web UI, right? So I'm pretty sure that's the case, and you sign message and then try to re-verify my wallet. And then kind of going back to the system, you can see my role is restored, right? Because now I just add that new wallet back to the system. So this surface from the user's point of view when they interact with Collab.Land for claiming their roles or managing their wallets. And here's kind of the back and forth information coming from the Collab.Land bot. What's behind the scenes is much more complex than what you could think. So let's kind of switch to that side of the story. Going back to my slides, right? So I have a couple slides talking about these different passes. So you could, click on the Let's Go button, and some information gets sent to Collab.Land. Then you can choose the different passes, either use a connected wallet or add a new wallet. But now we have this very busy story. Let me see if I can make it larger so you can read the graph meaningfully. So I want to give you a technical overview about this complex flow and who's involved in this, user flow, right? So kind of stepping back a little bit, even before the member have the opportunity to click on the Let's Go button, right? So imagine you have a community and you have that community on a Discord server. So number one is to, for the community admins to invite the Collab.Land bot into the server. That's number one. And once you invite our bot into your server, we'll create a record in our system to represent your community. So that's kind of number two. Then now you have the Collab.Land bot available from your Discord server. And before the member can do anything, the Collab.Land bot actually creates a couple channels two channels meaningfully. One is the Collab.Land config channel, which is the channel for community admins. And once in a while, we'll send some notifications to the Collab.Land config channel. So make sure you watch that channel because there could be security alert, could be product status updates, and some actions you might have to take from your site. So that's one channel. Second channel is for the members. So we create this Collab.Land join channel for members, and that's where the Let's Go button will show up. Right? So that's number 3. Now you have the bot invite to your guild, and you have these 2 special channels created by Collab.Land. Before the member can claim any roles, you have to, as a community admin, you have to define certain rules for your community, and that's we call token grant roles. And you have to do that with a web UI called Command Center, and you can actually launch that Command Center from inside the Collab.Land config channel. Then once you launch the Command Center, it's a web UI which allows you to define different rules, and that rules will be saved into your database. Then with that rules, the members can actually become part of that journey, right? Now imagine you define a NFT rule. In my case, you have to hold the Collab.Land NFT to qualify for that role. Then as a member of my Discord server, you can start to click around about this Let's Go button, right? So when you click on the Let's Go button, Discord sends a side message to the Collab.Land endpoint, which is registered by our bot with Discord, and that's going to be /Discord/interactions number 5, right? And then number 6 is hey, the Collab.Land API server sees that message and do some processing and giving response to the Let's Go button. So that's where you see, okay, now you can use the connected wallet, and we also show you what wallets you connected with Collab.Land, and then give you the option to add new wallet. So really the response is being enhanced beyond this one. It's not only just a link, but also the list of connected wallet, and give you a choice to make a selection there. Then if you select to add a new wallet, then we generate a temporary link for you to launch the wallet connection UI. And if you decide to reuse the wallet, then you get the role assignment response, as I have demonstrated a few minutes ago. But if you decide to go with the wallet connection paths, then you will launch the wallet connection UI. And on the production side, this is https://connect.collab.net. Pay attention to these domain names. Anything that's not ending with .collab.net, it's most likely phishing site. Pay attention to that. Then when you click on any of the wallet provider, basically you are in the journey to prove you own that wallet, right? Because that's for the best interest of the community. We want to make sure we verify the wallet ownership, so that this wallet privilege cannot be shared across multiple members, right? And whenever you sign the message will be pushed back to our API server. So the API server will verify the signature to make sure the clicking user is really the user owns that wallet. And if that verification is successful, then we also save a record into our database to keep track of your wallet connection. And then meanwhile, we schedule a so-called balance check. So what exactly is balance check? Is say, oh, now you have a wallet, right? And depend on the different token getting rules, the community says, hey, you need to have at least one NFT token from Collab.Land to qualify this role. Then the balance check basically use the wallet as the potential owner, and then look at the smart contract behind the Collab.Land NFT or the community NFT you have, or any ERC20 or any other rules. Then we say, okay, for this wallet address, does that wallet really owns the NFT? If yes, then it's a positive feedback. Otherwise, it's negative feedback. Then since we are talking to the blockchain, so that sometimes will take a little bit of time and depend on the complexity of the token getting rules you have. So that's why instead of responding directly from the API server back to Discord, we actually hand off that request from our API server to so-called like a job server. So we put a lot of efforts to make sure we have a very smooth communication channel happening across different servers. So we tried different technologies. At the beginning, we were using the Amazon SQS so that we can send a message to the SQS and then will be picked up from the job service side. And recently, we improved our system by switching from SQS to Redis, because Redis is a distributed memory and which performs much better than SQS. So you can probably see some improvement from the user's point of view sometimes. But we put a lot of efforts to fine tune our infrastructure to minimize the overhead. So the idea is now you get the request and you schedule this balance check, and it will be picked up by the job server, and the job server do the work, and then finally it send a message back to Discord, and that's why you see that second message say, okay, now your roles either are being removed or being assigned. So that's the feedback you will get from the job server itself. Right? So this is a kind of a lolly diagram, but it kind of surfaces the different kind of backend, front-end involvement from Collab.Land and other different personas coming into the picture, and how we hand off the request, and also have a meaningful, secure communication between Discord and us, and across the different servers we manage, and also between the front-end UI and the backend service. How do we guarantee the consistency and the security protection we have, because we are serving so many tokenized communities and serving millions of crypto users. So we want to make sure each user, each community will have their own isolation. There's no collusion between each of them and leaking information between each of them. So those are the design principles we have to make sure we have a performing, safe, and reliable and a scalable solution to serve our tokenized community and members. All right, so that's quite busy, but I want to kind of go back to the system and show the different metrics we have and kind of surface more details whenever something happens, right? So I'm going to just look at the OpenSearch dashboard we have, and I want to show the possibility, like some events getting into our system, right? So you see like some hits from the last 15 minutes. That's probably some of the traffic I generated, right? So, and I can further constrain this in the context of my Discord server. Let's say I go back to my Discord server and I want to copy the server ID I have. And then I can go in back to the matrix side and I add a filter, which is a body.community ID. And that's my community ID. So I can constrain community to here. So you see like 12 hits happening to my community, right? And if you look at the sequence here, so if you look at the last three messages, the first one is so-called check roles request. So that's very much say, hey, somebody click on the next go button, right? And we figure out we have to evaluate that member for their token roles qualification. So we generate this job request, and the job request will be triggered by this so-called let's go button. Then we have some information about when that happened, right? Because from the time series perspective, we can have a timeline to understand how these different requests coming in and being processed. Then inside the body, we have some pointers say, hey, this user coming from this guild, this user have this user ID. Then we also have some context information. For example, this is our Discord bot application ID. Okay. Then we have this so-called like interaction token. So please don't leak this information to somebody else. So in my case, it's fine because it's already expired after 15 minutes. But this is the key credential. We can talk to Discord under the same session back and forth. So that's a first request, right? So this is getting a request into our system. Then the second, job is doing the response. So we already checked the blockchain, and we look at the different roles and say, okay, for Raymond, you have a couple roles, and 4 of them are not being assigned, and 1 of them is being assigned. Then you also potentially see some errors if the coming admin config the token getting roles in a invalid format. Then you could say, okay, some roles cannot be checked successfully, and in that case, we will leave that role as is because we don't know if that role should be assigned or removed. But we're adding more and more validation to the token getting roles so that we minimize the user errors for the community admins. So this is the second request, right? So the first step, we sending a request, and second step, we check the balance for that community ID and community user against the different roles, and then we're getting back a response. So that's the second step. Now the third step is we have to notify the Discord server, say, okay, now we finished the check, and here's the information we need to tell the system, okay, for this particular community ID for this user, what roles are being assigned to that user, and what roles are being removed. So we have this kind of say for this given user, you should have this role, and then we also tell if this role is a new role or if this role is to be removed. So we have a separate section talking about these 2 different things. Right. So that's the third job request coming to the picture. Right. So very much like for the Let's Go flow, you can see a couple of events coming into our system, and this is how we have the different responsibility coming from the different part of the system that give us that meaningful reaction. Right? And of course, like I can also search by the user ID. So I can kind of copy my user ID, body.user ID. Yeah. Then I can go back to my Discord server and say, hey, okay, let's see what's Raymond's Discord server ID. And oftentimes, if you run into some issues and you try to understand, if Collab.Land can help you resolve that issue, we ask for this community ID and the user ID. So it's not your username. It's very much this internal ID you can get. If you enable the debug mode for your service, then you can do this right click and then copy the user ID. Then for the server, you can copy the server ID. Right? And kind of going back to my dashboard, I say, okay, let's look at Raymond's activities here. So it's already out of 15 minutes window. So I'm going to trigger some events here as well. Let's just clean up some of the message here. And use this wallet. And if we go back here and try to refresh for the next 15 minutes, now you see the 3 different jobs coming into the system, right? So the first one is the job request. The second one is the check role response. And the third one is the notification. One more thing I want to show to you is, let's see, we have this Discord interaction. So the Discord interaction events traps the user interaction, like you click on a button or do something from the Discord site, and each will translate into an event we have on our system. And if you look at this JSON document, now you can sort of understand when you click on the button, how do we recognize that button, right? So there's some contextual information. They say, okay, which Guild ID is that, which bot application is that. Then we have this description of the user interaction. So basically, you're clicking on a button, and that button is being part of the so-called message component on Discord on the technical form. Then, of course, you're clicking on the button, and here's the ID of the button. This is how we differentiate the different buttons from our backend when it comes to the Discord, right? Then we have information about who's clicking on that, right? So number one is who's the member. In this case, the member is me, and my username is cyberfan, and I also have this numeric ID. Then, of course, Discord even give me more information. They say, Raymond, you are part of these two roles, right? Then we can also figure out which channel that message is coming from. In this case, it's the Collab.Land join channel, and here's the channel ID. Then this is the message initially when we set up the Collab.Land join channel, right? So we sent this message to Discord, and the Discord will render that as the a button, right? So that this message is corresponding to the one you see from here. So basically, we're talking about this message, right? So the message has some reference to the author, which is our QA bug. Then you have a thumbnail here, and this section is called embed. And in embed, you have the title, and you have the description. Then you have some components, and the button is one kind of component. You can have a regular button, or you can have a URL link. So this is a URL link. This is a regular button, right? And if you go back to your system, you can see, okay, so the components are being organized as different roles. So at top level, you basically each component corresponding to one role, and potentially you could have multiple rows of things on the here. But in our case, we only have one row here, right? Then you have information about the different things. Okay, so we have two buttons here. The first one is called Let's Go, and this button is a regular button. The second one is so-called like a URL style, right? So you can see the difference between the two different styles. And in this case, instead of giving a custom ID, we have to give a URL for the button to launch. Then I was talking about the different section of the message. So we don't have this content section, and typically when you have some message coming back, so you could have some content, just like for example, I do say like hi, right? So really this is a content, and then below the content you have these different embeds from that. And of course, the embeds have information about who's the author of the message and what color it is. And then we have this description, right? So you see that description. Then you have thumbnail, you have the title, then you have other information there. So those are the information coming from the Discord site, right? So that's one action. And the second action you click on is this, we use existing wallet, right? So this will be different because you can see the button click is using existing wallets, right? Then based upon this ID, we figure out, okay, you always make a choice. Instead of launching a wallet connection UI, you can basically just use this button to do so. I think another thing I want to mention here is you can potentially just use a join command that achieve the same thing, which kind of simulate the Let's Go flow. If you don't want to switch channel and you want to just do in any channel, you can use the /join command. So that will give you the same result. So you can make a choice here and getting the corresponding data back from our system. All right, so we kind of explain, when you click on the button or you make a choice, what information flow from Disco to the Collab.Land server, and how Collab.Land server schedule the work and making notification upon the different progress. And we also talk about the different user flow you can have. You can use a existing wallet, and you can actually launch a new wallet, and you have the opportunity to disconnect a wallet or add a new wallet. But toward the end, you tell Collab.Land which wallet you want to use for yourself, and we're going to use as many wallets as possible from your registration with Collab.Land, and that applies to multiple communities. That in the community context, we know which community you are in, which user ID you have, and we also figure out what wallet you have, and also we look up the information from that tokenized community to see what roles we have to, enforce, right? And that finally translate into some blockchain costs to say, okay, this user have two wallets, then we have to iterate through these two wallets to check every single wallet, because nowadays people put in different assets into different wallets to protect themselves, and it could be very possible, like you have one wallet owns one MT, and you have another wallet owns some Collab.Land tokens, and depend on the community rules, we make sure the qualification you have from all the wallet you verify with Collab.Land will be guaranteed. Right? Then from the community perspective, the admin can meaningfully define multiple rules, and these rules have the ability to either produce all condition. That means as long as one of your wallets satisfy one of the rules, then you give your role. Or the community admin can use an advanced feature called role composition, so that can have more interesting hierarchy of the roles. Like say, if you try to acquire role number 3, you need to acquire role number 1 and the number 2 all together. Okay, so role number 3 will only grant to members that have both role number 1 and role number 2. So that gives the community admins a lot of flexibility to kind of see that, from happening. And I also want to quickly show the TGRs I have, and I want to help connect the dots. So I'm going to log into the QA version of the command center for my QA community. So I select to log in with Disco, and then I authorize Disco to give some basic information. So Collab.Land can leverage that information to discover what communities you are in. And then going back to TTR, I first select my community, right? This is my community. And if I switch to the TTR path, I can see I have this Collab.Land member role. And this is really the one I use. And what's interesting is I also have a role composition, and I actually have this role composition, into my system in the past. But I want to see I have some role composition, but since I directly add something into my database, so you probably don't see that. But the idea is like you can compose the roles coming from this token role into more meaningful constraints to support that. And this is the community admin persona, right? So that kind of dictate how the qualification goes. That this help us to allow the members to use this wallet connection UI together with a Disco interaction to figure out what information we need to connect the dots and make sure we have a meaningful check upon the user's action to connect wallets or like join a new community. I think I dump a lot of information there, and let's go back to see if there's anything else I want to show. So, other things. Yeah, so we also have this API Let's Go flow. So the Let's Go flow is very much like looking at how the user interact with us and acquiring roles for this Let's Go flow. So the bottom line is like we have quite a bit, monitoring capability to help us understand the flow and make sure we understand. And for example, we also have this wallet connection flow that I did once a couple. Look at the last of 1 hour, right? So this is where I connect my MetaMask wallet to our system, and we are seeing one event being trapped here. So showing these different events basically tells you what's happening behind the scenes and how we actually capture the information and do the job. I believe I dump a lot of information here, but uh, let's see if there's any questions from the audience. TV, do you see any questions from any of the community members here?
Oh gosh, my Discord has been terrible with me today. Yeah, let's take a look at the chat. And I know someone was raising their hand, so maybe they have a question. Let's invite them to the stage and see. Other than that, we have a couple of comments. Role composition definitely was a great addition. Totally agree. I'm curious if you guys have tried it. Like, would you like to tell us how you're using it? Or comments. And also, if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or you can write them in the chats. Oh, we also have a poll up for today, so we can give it away at any time.
Yeah, I think I pretty much finished my material, and hopefully that will give you some insights about what's happening behind the scene. And if you have any questions or you want to, understand further more, talk with us. And I hope this walkthrough of the user flow will give you some confidence, like how we handle the different role requests and meaningfully scale our systems to support thousands of tokenized community and millions of community members.
Yeah, it is so cool to see the whole process, like everything that happens, like since you click the button and how everything works. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that beauty, right? So from the user's point of view, they don't have to be
Mhm.
deeply involved, like just a simple button click, but it translates into a chain of actions in the backend doing a lot of sophisticated work. So that's the simplicity you want to have from the user's point of view, but we have to design and implement a system in such a way we can handle this complexity and keep them, chill from the users. So that's
Mhm.
the interesting battle we always have to make sure not only just for one user, but for millions of users happening sometimes at the same time. So uh, that's what I enjoy and make sure we create value for our tokenized community and the users.
Mhm. Yeah, one would never imagine. Like,
So just a quick time check. I think we're close to the end of the session. Maybe it's a good time, like while waiting, see if there are any questions coming up. Chibi probably can start to kick off the process.
sounds good. Just 1 second. All right, yes, we are good to go. So, for everyone in the audience, and I also saw that we had, I think, up to 12 viewers on Twitter. Well, X. But that's so exciting. And if there's anyone watching from YouTube or Twitter, Welcome, and so glad to have you guys watching. But again, to claim the POAP, we are doing this in our Discord server, and we're using the POAP mini app to claim it. So all you need to do is to write in any of the chats of the server slash POAP claim, POAP claim again, and it will ask you for a secret phrase. And the secret phrase for today's POAP is verify land. All lowercase and with no spaces in between. Again, verify land. Once that you write that down, hit enter and you will get a code to claim your POAP. Please let us know if it's working for you. And I'll claim mine right now because I haven't done that yet. Mm, Once again, just in case, we're using the POAP mini app to claim today's POAP. So that's with the slash command POAP claim. And then the secret phrase to claim it is verify land. All lowercase and with no spaces in between. Amazing. We have one claim already from Ayotunde. I'm just claiming mine right now. Ace is so cute, the POAPs. Yes, Anita, of course. Let's see a question. Can you spell the phrase? So, once again, the secret phrase is verify, as in verifying. That would be VERIFY, and then land, just as in Collab.Land. That would be LAND. So verify land with no space in between. Please let me know if you got it, Anita. And let's wait one more minute to see if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, I think that we are ready to wrap things up. What do you think, Raymond?
Cool.
Let's wait. 'Cause I see some people typing in the chat. Let's see, just in case. Thanks, everyone, for claiming the POAP. Awesome. So it looks like we don't have any questions. Thank you so much, Raymond. Like, this was super interesting to watch. And thanks everyone in the audience and on Twitter and YouTube for coming to today's Dev Deep Dives.
Yes, thank you so much and see you next time.
see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day.